Hi guys, Andre and John here, along with Bill Trinen from Nintendo Treehouse, and we are here to grill you today. No, we're here to have a fun chat about your showcase, everything everything you announced, all the games coming up, and who knows what else. So, of course, I think we have to start off with Breath of the Wild 2.
We finished with that. Why do we have to start with that? That was the very end of the direct.
That was the biggest surprise, I think. That and Banjo are pretty close.
Yeah.
So, what more can you tell us about this? How long has it been in development for? Are you able to?
You know what? Not a whole lot. Essentially, all we're doing at E3 is we've shown the trailer. I know you guys turned that trailer into an 11-minute video.
Of course. To start with.
To start with, I'm sure there will be more. But really, it's what we can say is it's not DLC. It is a brand new game, brand new adventure. It is a direct sequel to the Breath of the Wild, and it is coming to Nintendo Switch.
All right, well, that's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, is there anything? What's it like for you to see? Because you've been working with Zelda for quite some time. I believe you worked on Link's Awakening. And
So the first Zelda game I worked on was Ocarina of Time, and that was just translating bug reports.
Mm-hmm.
Link's Awakening DX was involved a little bit, and actually the localization of the PAL version of that.
Oh wow,
my version.
Yeah, and then Majora's Mask was the first one that I localized wholesale.
Okay.
So
in a way, so Breath of the Wild is, I feel, kind of like a spiritual successor, sort of to what Ocarina was, and of course they also have Link's Awakening, the remake here.
Yes.
So is that kind of fun for you to see it come full circle like this for you, given your?
Yeah, it is. I mean, Link's Awakening was actually probably one of the first Zelda games I ever completed. So I absolutely adore that game, and to see it brought to life, and I don't know if you've seen the 3D kind of dioramas out there in the booth. They're absolutely amazing.
They look great.
And the game is so adorable. I just love the art style, and I'm so glad to see that it really is, if you think about it, one of the very few Zelda games left that had never been remade other than being brought into full color on Game Boy Color. So to see that come back to life and be brought to a whole new generation of people, I think is great. And the other thing about that game is that because it's a top-down 2D Zelda game, and just I think with that art style, it really is going to be a way for an audience that maybe hasn't played a Zelda game before to kind of get eased into the franchise.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you did mention, you mentioned Link's Awakening DX as part of that, and I guess which itself was not really a remake, but an update to Link's Awakening.
Mm-hmm. I
believe earlier today you announced that its Color Dungeon would be coming back into the game.
That's right.
So can you speak more to how much is this really more the game seems very true to the original? So is there going to be much more new content, or is what we've seen so far pretty much what we're going to get, an accurate, faithful recreation of the original plus new dungeon mode and the Amiibo support?
Yeah, so it is a pretty faithful recreation of the original game. There are a few nuances in there that they've changed. One of the great things they've really gone through from a kind of an interface perspective and streamlined that. If you remember back on the Game Boy and the Game Boy Color, you had 2 buttons, and it really meant a lot of jumping into the menu and swapping items out and things like that. A lot of that's been streamlined. So, for example, if you have the power bracelet, that's no longer an item that you put on a button, but it's, once you get it, then you've just got that ability.
Okay.
So they've streamlined a lot of that. You'll notice there's a few other little things that they've added. I think in the video and the Nintendo Direct, and then today on Nintendo Treehouse Live, you may have seen that there's a bottle in the game now, which if you recall, Link's Awakening didn't have bottles in the past, so they've done a few sort of little tweaks here and there. They will have tweaked a few gameplay elements and enemy patterns and things like that, but a fairly faithful recreation. And then, of course, with the chamber dungeon mode, it's actually quite fun, and they showed it in fairly good detail on Treehouse Live today. But it has sort of a kind of a almost Picross-like nature to it, where you've kind of got these themes that you're trying to build to, and then you're laying out the dungeon parts within that. You still have to. It sounds really easy, but you actually have to say, oh well, where's the door on this one? I've got to line them up so that it actually forms, a path that you can get through the dungeon.
Right.
You've got to put in, the treasure chests and things like that. So it's pretty fun from a creation perspective in terms of trying to solve those sort of puzzle-like forms that you're trying to fill in. And then, of course, you're able to play through, and it does have a timer, so you can even have little speed runs of your own little dungeon layouts, which is pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, you guys weren't the only ones with the Direct this week, because Devolver Digital had their very own Direct.
Oh.
How do you guys feel about them sort of mimicking your style there?
Oh, I actually haven't seen that. Did they call it Direct? Or?
It's yeah, Devolver Direct.
Wow. Well, that's interesting.
Similar graphics, transitions. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I guess imitation is the best form of flattery.
That's true.
Yeah. Which one had better games?
Yeah.
Can't possibly say.
It's hard to top the sheer quantity of games that. Although one of them isn't appearing quite when it was announced to have originally, being Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Getting a little bit of a delay there. Can you speak a little bit more as to why it may have slipped out this year?
Well, I think the development team, as they've been working on the game, they've really kind of focused in on the idea of the deserted island. And players, it used to be that you would move into a town of animals and kind of start from sort of a base. And now what you're doing is you're moving into this deserted island. And as a part of that, they wanted to layer in a lot of additional elements that'll kind of give players a bit more freedom in how to kind of develop their own island, or eventually you'll turn your tent into a house at some point, assuming you pay Tom Nook back for everything that you owe him. But I think that they wanted to really take a look at what they can do to give players kind of a greater degree of freedom in kind of customizing that. And you see that a little bit with how they're letting you now place furniture outdoors, which you never used to be able to do before.
Right.
You're seeing it even with things like just the crafting mechanism. Because if you think back to a traditional Animal Crossing game, you would normally, you would get into town and you would have sort of the small, nook's cranny that you would go into, and there might be 2 or 3 things available for sale. But now with the crafting mechanic, you've got a bit more choice in terms of, hey, which item do I want to craft? What do I want to go after? Before it was like, oh, there's one item in there, and somebody else in my town already bought it today, and now it's gone, and now I have to wait until tomorrow. And so they're looking at ways to give people more freedom to kind of play the game the way they want. And then also, I don't know if you caught Treehouse Live, there was a brief mention of the Nook mileage plan, which also will reward you for doing the things that you like to do and the different tasks that you do on the island, and that'll give you another way to kind of earn things within the game. So as they started building out some of these elements, it'll kind of give players more of that freedom to customize the way they want. They decided that in order to really have all of this come together in the way that they envisioned, they needed just a little bit more time.
Okay. You guys have a lot of Zelda games in development at the moment. There's Link's Awakening, the Breath of the Wild sequel, and also Cadence of Hyrule. So 2 questions here.
Yes.
First of all, is this going to be a precedent? Are there going to be more indie collaborations with Nintendo? And second, what would you like to see from that partnership?
Well, I think, Cadence of Hyrule is launching in just a couple days. It's going to launch on the eShop, I believe, Thursday of this week. So it doesn't really matter what I want to see at this point. The game is pretty much locked and loaded, but it's actually... I'm a big fan of that game just because of the way that it's taken sort of the rhythm gameplay of the original Crypt of the Necrodancer and brought it to Nintendo Switch and combined it with sort of the look and the feel and the characters of The Legend of Hyrule. The remixes are really great. What they've done, even with things like the boss designs, where you've got the characters themed with kind of musical instruments, is really just, they've had a lot of fun doing it, and just all of the remixes are amazing. So in terms of sort of a new direction for kind of Nintendo and indie partnerships, I don't necessarily think it means that all of a sudden the doors are open. I really look at it more as this is another kind of extension of what we've always done, which is when we found the right mix of our franchises with the right gameplay and the right development partner, we've welcomed that, and we've moved it on and done kind of some unique partnerships that way. And you can see that both with Cadence of Hyrule, you can see it with Mario and Rabbids. We've even had other examples in the past where our characters have appeared in other games. So it's still, I think it fits with kind of our approach. What's unique this time is that rather than being a big third-party publisher, it's we're working with Spike Chunsoft and their indie developer Brace Yourself Games, and so that's probably the uniqueness of it. But I feel it's kind of an extension of what we've done in the past.
Right. Well, speaking of collaboration, there were a few Microsoft games in this Direct. Super Lucky's Tale. Also Banjo, which that's a rare IP from Microsoft. What's going on with that relationship there? Can we expect more from Microsoft and Nintendo in the future?
Well, I think it's a great partnership, and it's it's kind of funny that we're so close geographically to one another.
I think you can see their office from your office.
Yeah, we're literally surrounded by them. I can't get to work without driving past their office. But I think obviously they're looking at kind of their approach and where they want their content to be. Minecraft is another good example of the partnership and what it's brought to Nintendo Switch, including things like crossplay and things like that. So I don't know what else there is to come, but I'm excited for it.
Can you tell us a little bit more about how that process started with Banjo specifically? Well, both Banjo and working with Microsoft in general, having their games on the Nintendo platform is something that feels like it would have been unheard of, a few years ago. And now with one of their IPs, which originally was seemingly a Nintendo one, reappearing on the Nintendo platform, can you speak how that came about?
Well, I think certainly, even in all the conversations that have happened around Smash Brothers over the years, there's always sort of been the question of, should Banjo be a part or not be a part? I don't know if what opened the door was Phil Spencer tweeting about it in the past, or if it really was a push from Mr. Sakurai. But overall, I think we're just glad to have had it happen. I'm also, I don't know if you saw today, but Grant Kirkhope revealed that he did the music for the reveal video, and that he will be having more of his tracks in the game. So I think as fans of music, as we know you are, you'll be happy about that, because I'm certainly happy about that. And anytime that we can get more music from Grant Kirkhope, I think that's a good thing.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
There was quite a big announcement in the Treehouse today about Mario Maker. You mentioned that you'll be able to, you're sort of addressing the playing with friends problem that came up recently. Can you speak more about that? How exactly is that going to come to fruition?
Well, yeah. Essentially, I think it's something that the dev team had wanted to do ahead of launch. They've confirmed that their plan is to do that post-launch. They don't have a timeline for when that is, but sometimes in the scope of development, they have a certain number of tasks on their plate, and some things don't always make it in time for launch. But I'm just glad that they've been able to. Mr. Tezuka came out and said, "Yep, it's been in the plans and it is coming," but hopefully we'll be able to give more detail on the timing fairly soon.
Right.
Now, one thing that was missing from the Direct, not that it was announced.
Are you complaining?
I'm not complaining. No, I think it was a great Direct. However, it was more of a segue into this question of 3DS.
Okay.
Are there any games coming for it? Any more first-party games, or is the Switch Nintendo's focus going forward?
I think at E3 this year, our focus very much is Switch, and we're looking, partly it's just when you look at the sheer amount of content that's coming to Nintendo Switch, even just in the next 3 to 4 months, we had a lot of content to cover. We filled basically a 45-minute Direct with what I think is a pretty strong lineup of Switch games. I don't know if the 3DS would have driven as much excitement for that. Obviously, it's still on sale. It's still available in stores. It's still an important device for us. But we don't have any plans right now to announce any additional games for it at the moment. So.
So Microsoft kind of unveiled their Scarlet, the next generation platform. Google has Stadia, Sony have PlayStation 5. How is the Switch going to compete with those moving forward?
Well, I think right now we're just focused on the fact that we have a system that is, it seems like people really understand the value of Nintendo Switch, right? I can sit and play it on my TV when my kids aren't using their Switch on my TV. I can pick it up and bring it down to LA with me and play on the plane, or sit in my hotel room and play at night, which I literally did yesterday. I think that what makes Switch unique is it is a system that is unlike any other, right? You can take it and play it wherever you want, and it's got a huge library of games. I think we're at something like 2,000 games for this system right now. It's still, I think right now we're seeing a ton of momentum for the hardware, and when you look at the content that's coming, and it's starting this month with Super Mario Maker 2, you've got, Fire Emblem, Marvel Ultimate Alliance in July, and I think everybody's now realizing that September is sort of just like this festival of games because of everything that's launching that month. So for us, the focus really is just on the Switch momentum right now. Yeah.
You guys have pushed Dragon Quest quite hard in the past, publishing multiple titles. Now the Heroes in Smash.
Yep.
You got 11S coming to Switch, which is the definitive version of that game. There's Builders 2. Are you really hoping for like a big push for Dragon Quest in the West? Because it's been attempted before, but never quite succeeded in the West. So what's the approach this time for Dragon Quest?
Well, I mean, from my perspective, we had a really big push behind Dragon Quest IX on Nintendo DS, and from our perspective, that game did particularly well and introduced a lot of people to the series. I think Dragon Quest XI is probably maybe one of the more approachable, both for longtime Dragon Quest fans and for people who've never played the game. So for us, it's really about looking at the Switch audience and looking at kind of the types of games that they've been playing, and really saying, Dragon Quest is something for Switch players who are really looking for that core RPG. Obviously, it's there is no bigger name really when it comes to kind of traditional JRPGs, and particularly when you look at the improvements that have been made, and this really truly is the definitive edition. And then you have the added benefit of this character's now appearing in Smash, which means you've just got a larger number of people who are going to be familiar with him. I think it's going to drive interest in sort of the backstory and really trying to get to know that character. And speaking of, it's also, I just think you have the added benefit of being able to revisit all of those 2D Dragon Quest worlds for all of the Dragon Quest fans that are out there, which is really cool. And of course, you can just play the whole game in 2D if you want. So if 3D graphics aren't your thing and you just want to get super retro, you can do that too.
Nice. Circling back to Mario Maker for a second, something else that caused not quite as much uproar as the friend lobbies, which is now seemingly being addressed, or lack of friend online play, was the lack of Amiibo costumes compared to Super Mario Maker. Can you speak to that at all, like as to why they may not be returning, and is there any chance that they may down the line if they are in fact gone?
I don't know if they will or won't down the line. I think, with each game, the developers just really kind of decide on the different areas they want to focus on. I think for the first Mario Maker game, it made sense to have kind of all those different characters appear, but they really wanted to focus more on kind of adding in the new elements. And the thing with Mario Maker is that the way that you're able to combine elements means that the addition of new elements means the addition of new combinations. And so between wanting to focus on that, wanting to focus on both co-op creation and then obviously with multiplayer play, those were some pretty big areas that we're putting their attention on. And so I think they just decided that, for this time we're going to focus on those areas, and whether or not they come back to that in the future, we'll have to wait and see.
Does it mark a shift at all for the focus on Amiibo? But there were a few new ones announced at the C3, but it just seemed like we are seeing less of Amiibo than we have in the Wii U era, for instance, or even moving into the Switch era. Is there less of is that an intentional direction Nintendo's been taking?
No, I don't think so. I mean, certainly we have the Link's Awakening Amiibo was announced. We still have Amiibo coming out for Super Smash Brothers, and I think there's a few other games at the show that, maybe if you tune into Treehouse Live tomorrow morning, you may hear a little bit about maybe some Amiibo support. But overall, I think, we're pretty happy with where Amiibo is. Mm-hmm. Certainly, when we first released it, there was a tremendous amount of sort of passion and Amiibo hunting and all of that. And I think what we've gotten right now is we've gotten to a place where we really have a sense of, who out there is still really interested in Amiibo and collecting, and we've been able to both bring back a lot of the original Smash Brothers Amiibo from the Wii U game and re-release some of those. We're still bringing back some of the Zelda Amiibo for Breath of the Wild, and then we're still looking at, bringing in the right numbers of Amiibo for the future Smash Brothers releases. So I think we'll still continue to see, certainly on Smash Brothers side, new Amiibo coming, and then, when you have a game like Link's Awakening where the developer gets really passionate about it and they've got an idea that they want to use an Amiibo for, we'll still probably continue to see new Amiibo for future games as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
One interesting thing in the Direct was Doug Bowser basically made his Direct debut.
Yeah.
And Reggie has been working at the company for a long time now. What's it like at Nintendo without Reggie now?
Man, it's so much easier. No, I'm not getting fired all the time. No, it's actually, it's funny because, you know, it seems like it's been longer than it has because it got announced, I think, back in February. But Reggie left at the kind of middle of April, so it really has only been 2 months. And of course, those 2 months are the 2 months before E3. So I don't know if there's even been a chance for Doug to make his full imprint yet. But what's great is that it's been great having him the last few years because he's really great to talk to. You know, he's just got kind of his own vibe, and it's really fun working with him, as maybe you saw in our little interstitial between the Direct and Treehouse Live. But Doug's great, and I'm sure that as we kind of move out of E3 and start working towards holiday and things like that, he'll start kind of really, you know, putting his imprint on Nintendo of America. But I think so far everybody's really excited, and I think it's going to be great. Yeah.
One other device you've been supporting recently, almost as a quasi-platform, would be Labo VR. We've seen support for multiple games, except there's one odd omission, being Mario Kart so far, which had Labo support for all the other games. So is there a future for Labo VR in terms of broader support beyond what we have already?
Nothing that I think we're ready to talk about or anything that's, I think, in the works to announce anytime soon. I think it really is going to be kind of dependent on the dev teams that are interested, if they're interested. Certainly we've shown The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. I understand that maybe you've played it once or twice.
I'm really hoping for the sequel to have Labo VR support. So
yeah, and I think, you know, certainly with Super Mario Odyssey and things like that, they've found some fun ways to leverage it. But at this point, I don't know that there's any other announcements that we have coming anytime soon.
Okay.
So there's a question linked to your shirt, Bill. What's Pokemon Sleep?
Nice.
Well, I think I'm looking forward to seeing what Pokemon Sleep is, because I like to sleep, so hopefully I get a lot of points.
Especially after E3, I imagine.
I know. Hopefully, I can do a beta test, and whatever it is that I'm going to get out of it, I can earn lots of points, because I think I'm going to need some sleep after this week.
Yeah, I hear that. All right. Well, thank you so much, Bill, for joining us. We really appreciate sitting down and chatting with us on Nintendo at E3. And, of course, stay tuned to Game Explained for lots more from the show, including more of your games that we'll be playing and everything else. So we'll catch you later. Bye.